Hey, this is Lauren from the Beard Owl Podcast. I like beer, and so does Dave. You're listening to Beer in Front.
This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Every week I'll talk about a beer that maybe we've forgotten along the way while we get those check-ins and badges. Some weeks I'll talk about a new beer that has potential to be a classic. Being the Chicago beer guy, I'll also talk about great craft beer in the city of Chicago. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to the third anniversary episode of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening the past 3 years. This is episode 149, and I'm as shocked as Claude Rains in Rick's Cafe American that there is gambling going on, that I'd still be here doing this 3 years later. I think I overthink everything. I've come up with a ton of ideas and plans and never think I'd be good enough to pull it off. Somehow, I not only went through and started this podcast, but kept at it now for 149 episodes and still counting. There's even a YouTube and a TikTok channel. I'm not sure who has made it through all of the episodes, but Dan, Joe, and Ray Ray, they're right up there. Thank you for listening to every time I say so. And like I said, I never say that in general conversation. When I listen to the final edits before putting the show out there, I hear and I cringe every time I say it. I write out an outline of each and every show, put out bullet points like the beer news, but 95% of this is off the cuff and ad-libbed. Somehow, like I said, gets in there every flippin' episode. I'm going to work on that this year, or at least have a contest where if you guess the times I say, like I said, I'll send you out a pint glass or something. As you might have noticed, there's some background noise and chatter today. I'm not in the luxurious Beer in Front studio. I'm doing this show live at Dovetail Brewing in Chicago, and I'm going to have their Vienna Lager as my Beer in Front on this third anniversary. On the very first show, I talked about this beer and style, and it's only fitting that I have it here on draft today. The other beer I had on that episode was Samuel Adams Boston Lager. They're coming out with a brighter version. I'm recording this a week before it airs, so if I see the new Sam Adams, I'll probably just record a separate segment on that. I started this show a couple weeks before the pandemic. I initially thought I'd be going to various breweries and talking to folks and having a beer that maybe you know the rest. Like everyone else, I had to pivot and wound up with the format I have now. Out of all that, with some trial and error, I found my niche and put out what you hear every week. I mentioned that I'm at Dovetail, and you can't go to Dovetail without having the Rauch beer. So I'm having that right now as I'm recording, and it's delicious. The one thing I noticed, and I didn't think this out about doing the show live at a tap room, I don't get the sound effects, but there is a Rauch beer in my hand, and it's great. It's not as smoky as some. I think the Alaskan Smoke Porter is a much heavier smoked beer, and if that's the only one that you're familiar with, if you're in the Chicago area, head over to Dovetail and pick up their Rauch beer because it is great. I've been blessed to have talked to folks from all over the United States and from countries like Canada, Poland, and Australia about beer, their projects. Somehow I managed to get an Emmy Award-winning writer and producer on the show to talk about Stax Records. I'm just some jagoff in Chicago bullshitting my way through life, and somehow other shows have asked me to come on. I don't know. I do want to say that the beer and podcasting community, they're filled with wonderful people. I'd list them all here, but you would fast forward this like you did on my old Anchor ads. Let me explain. To my friends and family in the beer and podcasting communities, thank you for accepting me. This show has been listened to in 43 countries and every state in the United States except for Montana and Nebraska. Who the hell in Iraq and Cuba wants to listen to some jagoff in Chicago talk about beer? I don't know, but if you're out there, thank you. A lot has changed in the past 3 years. It seems that 90% of craft beer is now in cans, and I couldn't tell you the last time I filled a growler up. Before the pandemic, when you went to a tap room, you'd always see people filling growlers, and even after the pandemic, like when it started, there were people just filling up growlers because they couldn't go out. After the pandemic, I don't see it anymore. I couldn't tell you the last time I filled one up, and I couldn't tell you the last time I saw somebody walk into a spot with a couple growlers to fill. Locally, there's places now like the District Brew Yards and Pilot Project that host 5 to 6 different breweries. That's really cool. In my little corner of the world in the North Center, Lincoln Square area of Chicago, we've had places like Urban Brew Labs, Empirical, and Band of Bohemia close up. Half Acre closed their Lincoln Avenue location, and happily that's now the new Hop Butcher. And sadly, Twisted Hippo's Montrose location had a devastating fire about a year ago, and that spot is empty, but thankfully they're brewing again over at District Brew Yards. My buying habits have definitely changed in the last 3 years. Some have been related to the podcast, where I'll go to a bottle shop like Bottles and Cans or Beermiscuous, and I'll get a mix pack for different beers to try out for the show. Outside of the special release, it's rare now that I'll go to a brewery to buy a 4 or a 6-pack. It's not that I'm afraid of going out and catching something. I work in the public and wound up with COVID 3 times. The first bout was brutal. That was about a year ago, if you remember. I was out for 4 months. It was just a mess. So maybe that's in the back of my head as well. I don't know. But also, frankly, I think I have, and maybe others, have gotten lazy since 2020, where you could go to a place like a Binny's or a grocery store and grab almost anything without having to go to 5 or 6 different spots. Also, doing this show, I've rediscovered some beer that I never would have touched in the past. I'll grab a 30-pack of the High Life now, and I have no shame in doing so. And most of the time, I wear a Schlitz hat in public. I don't know, but I know I do miss sitting in tap rooms like I am now. You talk to different people and bartenders who are the backbone of America. Maybe that's why I'm in therapy every week, because I don't talk to bartenders as much as I used to. I'm going to check with Blue Cross Blue Shield and see if they could cover my bar tab. Doing a weekly podcast is almost like another job, and I'm not complaining about it, but you would think that with a normal episode of this show, Beer in Front, it's around 20 minutes, give or take. It wouldn't take that much time, but it does. You're always online researching beer news, buy beer for the show, then you have to record it and edit it down. That takes more time than I ever would have thought 3 years ago. You think my voice is like this without editing? I sound like Janice from Friends in real life.
Oh my God!
Now, with videos, there's more time that, I have to do recording the videos, but luckily I can knock that out in about an hour or so. I'm not talking about this show here, but if you like something that an independent content maker is doing, show them some love from time to time. It means the world to someone struggling to put out content week to week. I mentioned in the open that I'm recording today's show at Dovetail Brewery. Dovetail is located at 1800 West Belle Plaine in Chicago. You can walk there from the Irving Park Brown Line station. Dovetail makes traditional beer styles using traditional equipment and traditional ingredients. You're not going to find any Citra hops in the back, nor will you find a hard seltzer. But if they made a Rauch seltzer, oh, I'm on it. I'd be all over a Rauch seltzer. So if you're looking for a brewery in Chicago that makes exceptional traditional beer, Dovetail is your spot. I mentioned before that I'm having the Rauch beer. This is 5.6%. It's really good. It's a well-balanced beer. There's a little hoppiness there, which balances out the smoke. I mentioned in the first part that the smoke is not as heavy as some other beers. So definitely, if you're in Chicago, pick up a Rauch beer from Dovetail.
Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Richie.
I'm Little Matt.
And here in the 500 Section Lounge, we are three dads who host a family-friendly weekly podcast.
Yep, we laugh, we go on tangents, and we talk to great guests.
Tangents? I don't know what you're talking about with that. You know there are gases leaking?
All right, okay.
Yeah, we have legendary conversations from sports to history and everything in between.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
And always be there to
grab a listen.
Dovetail utilizes malt from the Franken region in Germany and noble hops from all across Europe. Their kettle is copper and was made in 1905 from a brewery that has been around for over 1,000 years. The brew house, cool ship, and open fermenters are all custom built. All of their beer is made using traditional processes on American and German-made equipment. Every beer is cooled in an open cool ship for higher clarity while maintaining complexity in the flavor, plus all of the flagship beers are fermented in open fermenters. Now, the beer in front that I'm having today is their Vienna Lager. The Vienna Lager is generally between 4.5% to 5.5% alcohol. It's not a hoppy beer. The usual one falls between 18 and 30 IBUs. Usually Vienna malt is used, and Munich and Pils malt can be substituted as well. They have a light to medium body, not highly carbonated. I would say it's more of the middle of the road, and it's a standard strength beer for every day. The style originated in 1841 and was brought to Mexico in the late 1800s. A Dos Equis Amber and even Bohemia are Mexican beers that are close to the Vienna Lager style. The one I'm having now from Dovetail, it's 5.1% alcohol. It's made with 100% Vienna malt. It's delicious. It's so good. I get from this very minimal hops, but it's there. It's kind of floral. I get a lot of good sweetness from the malt. It's just a terrific beer, and one that I usually have every time I come here, or if I'm out and about. I always pick up their Vienna Lager because it's an outstanding day-to-day beer. It's a nice kind of reddish gold color. It's not as darker red as some Vienna Lagers, but it's a beautiful color. Great aroma here. It's a little fruity, a little floral with the hop taste. It's, like I said, there I go with the like I said, son of a bitch. No, it's a terrific beer. You will not be disappointed. If you see the Vienna Lager from Dovetail, throw it in the cart. Going back and looking at the beer I had over the past 3 years, the bulk of my top 20 is dominated by barrel-aged beers with a Dortmunder, an IPA, and a fruit beer in there. Looking at the numbers, I think I was more generous with my scoring early on, where the bulk of my perfect and high scores were when I started back in 2020. So I think I'm going to need to go back and re-drink these. I've been blessed to have many of my top beers. They were ones sent over from friends across the country. Had beers from Second Shift, Virginia Beer Company, Cunningham, Russian River, The Alchemist, Bottle Logic, just to name a few. Thank you to everyone who has sent over beer. I hope you enjoyed the Chicago stuff I've sent to you. I've had over 700 different beers from all over, ranging from the first beer I had on the show, which was Samuel Adams Boston Lager, to that dreadful Smirnoff Ice I had with Phil on last week's show. Now, 700 seems kind of high coming from a guy that tells you every week to just enjoy what's in front of you. I love the classics, but innovation is what makes the world go round, and I'm always hoping that whatever's in front of me will be a beer that I'll still talk about in years to come. As I'm closing out this episode, I hope I've made you chuckle along the way while reintroducing to some and telling others about a beer that has endured over the years. Beers like Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, Old Rasputin, Allagash White. These were great beers when they came out, and they're still great today. So thank you for listening and putting up with me for 3 years. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I really want to thank Dovetail for having me there and letting me record the 3rd anniversary show. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed hanging out there and having the Rauch beer and the Vienna Lager. So thank you to Dovetail. If you're in the Chicago area, please hit them up. They're a great spot. I love all their beers. Definitely worth your time to go visit them. I do want to have another beer in front here. This was given to me by one of my best friends, Ben. You heard me talk about my friends. You hear me talk about them all the time. Ben, Ray, the 2 Daves. They're like brothers to me. I'm an only child, but I have 4 brothers, and it's those guys, and, I'll go to bat for them any day of the week. They're my brothers. I love them to death. But Benny, he sent over to me Rye Whiskey Barrel Aged Hideaway. This is from Pollyanna. This is an Imperial Stout aged in 10-year-old rye whiskey barrels. It has coffee, vanilla, maple, cocoa, and milk. Ben, it has milk sugar. The fuck, Ben? You're my brother. I was just talking you up and you're giving me something with milk sugar? Fucking Ben. So I'm going to have this from Pollyanna. I'm looking forward to it. It's 13%, and let's crack it open. Oh, this looks spectacular. Good foam, nice, like coffee with cream colored foam here. Wow, what a great aroma. I'm getting a lot here. I'm getting the bourbon. I'm getting the coffee. It smells phenomenal. Wow. Holy shit. This is fucking killer. My God. There's a lot going on here. It's almost like a coffee with cream and sugar, but you get the dark notes from the malt. You get the bourbon in here. This is absolutely outstanding. It's sweeter than some of the others, and I'm assuming that's the milk sugar that's in here. So it has a little, it's more sweet than your traditional bourbon barrel aged stout, but this is so good. I mean, I get everything in here. I get, in the aftertaste, I get the maple, I get the vanilla. This would be great for breakfast. All you need is a little like pork sausage and bacon. You're good to go. You have this. Your whole day in front of you is going to be outstanding because you started your day with this. But Benny, I can't thank you enough, my brother. This is absolutely killer. This is from Pollyanna. So if you see this, put it in the cart. This is Rye Whiskey Barrel Aged Hideaway. Once again, this is 13%. It's an Imperial Stout aged in a 10-year-old rye whiskey barrel with tugboat coffee, vanilla bean, maple, cocoa, and milk sugar. Benny, thank you again. Thank you for listening for 3 years for Beer in Front. That's going to wrap things up for this 3rd anniversary edition of Beer in Front. I thank you for listening. I want to thank Dovetail Brewing for having me. I want to thank Benny for giving me that fantastic Pollyanna beer. I thank you all so much for putting up with me, listening to me every week. It means a lot. It means more than you'll ever know. Thank you so much for listening. I'm taking next week off, a little mini vacation, and I will be back in 2 weeks. And have a great couple weeks. Enjoy your spring break. And I'll see you in 2 weeks on Beer in Front.